Hello, everybody! I'm back! I'm so excited. It has been a little while since I have been filming. It's funny because I was kind of like waiting for things to calm down and get organized. Started homeschooling, so the move from August into September was a little bit crazy, and I was kind of waiting until I got my act together, so to say, to start my channel back up again. But I've kind of realized I'm just never gonna have my act together. Things will never be clean enough. Things will never be organized enough. It'll just never be exactly how I want it to be. I don't feel like I'm completely back up to organized in life, but I love my channel. It's time to start going again. This is, who knows how organized this conversation I'm gonna have with the camera will be, but we're moving forward and we'll see what direction we go. So I'm super excited today to talk about the books that I have been reading recently. So hi, my name's Talia. I love books, I love bandanas. I'm so glad you're at my channel today, and we're just gonna jump right into it. So I have 3 physical books I read, 3 audiobooks, and 1 Kindle since I last recorded. I've been recording, I recorded some in August, but then I never had time to edit and things got kind of crazy. So at some point I might go back and edit and stick in some older videos, or I might not, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But for today, let's just talk about the books I've read recently. Okay, so we will talk about the physical books first. So this is honestly probably part of the reason that I stopped filming in August, because this book took a really long time to read. This is The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. Loved it so much. Long, 722 pages. So this is a fantasy novel about a man/child named Quoth and his story growing up as a pretty powerful, I don't know if you'd call him a wizard, just a person, a very powerful person, and learning to use his powers and becoming an orphan at a really young age, and kind of learning to fend for himself, raise himself up, and get himself through the university, which is where he learns to continue on in his magic. It was just engaging from beginning to end. It was such a good read. This is a pretty popular fantasy novel, so I don't feel like I have to go too much into it. There's a second one already out and a third one that's supposedly being written still, which causes a lot of like angst and stress in the booktube world, I've learned, and just the people, the Patrick Rothfuss fan world in general, because this book really ends like just kind of in the middle of a story. Like there's no really wrapping up of anything. It's just like, well, now we're done and we're gonna continue on his story in the next book. And I imagine that in the second book, it's probably the same. So I can see how you would be irritated waiting over 10 years for the last installment. And who knows if he's gonna release it or not. So at this point, I'm like, I don't think I'm gonna read the second one until I know for sure that the third one's coming, because I think at least now I like know there's more to read. I think it would stress me out being like, oh, there's the second and there's nothing, if that makes sense. I don't know, but this is a fantastic fantasy novel. I just loved the characters. I loved the magic. I loved everything about it. This is a top book of the year for me for sure. So glad I read it. So glad I'm getting into the fantasy world. I have not read a lot of adult fantasy novels, so yeah, that was amazing. Okay, I really liked this one too. This was, honestly, there was not a stinker in the bunch for me recently for what I've been reading. I have read some good stuff. So Cinder was also a 5-star. I buddy read this with Karina over at What Brings Karina Joy. And I loved this too. So this is a loosely based Cinderella retelling, except Cinderella is a cyborg and she is living in the future compared to where we are now. And there's like a clan of people that live on the moon, and those are the enemies, and she is living in a global pandemic situation, which was written before our current pandemic situation, so it's interesting seeing that point of view. But yeah, so very different than your traditional Cinderella setting. And I first was like, I don't know, this sounds kind of out there. I don't know if I'm gonna like this, but I loved it. I loved it. I loved seeing like the little bits of like the Cinderella story mixed in, but also like it wasn't predictable enough and it didn't follow along the story enough to know like what was gonna happen. So yeah, highly recommend this one. It's in a series. There's like 4 main books and then a couple others, like I don't know if they're like 2.5 or 3.5 books. I'm not sure exactly, but I will definitely be getting the set and reading more of this because it was very enjoyable. Really liked it. I think the next one is like Little Red Riding Hood based, but this character, the Cinder character, is still in that book. So Cinder's story kind of weaves through, which is good because this ended kind of on a cliffhanger. And yeah, I really liked this as well. Okay, this was cute. This was a group buddy / group read with Chatty the Mad Chatter and Vidania. And Wendy, I think, is in that too. And someone else. Oh, I think Kelly reads a lot. Maybe is reading it. I can't remember right now. I know Chatty and Vidania are the main people that read this book in this month. Is it this month? Yeah, in September. So this was cute. Not a 5-star for me, maybe like a 3. It's really interesting because it takes place like in the past in London, like with where they're lighting like candles for electricity and like, you know, like that kind of older feel, but yet they have these mechanical creatures. So it like Malkin is the mechanical fox. So he is a fox, but he's mechanical. Like you have to wind him to work, but he has feelings like a human and he talks like a human. And there's like Mrs. Rust, who's like the housekeeper / cook, and she is a machine, but she's been created so intricately that she has feelings and like is like a person. So it's a story of Lily, whose father goes missing in her adventure with her friend Robert and the mechanical fox Malkin to try to figure out where her father went and where his missing invention is. And yeah, it kind of goes from there. So it was a cute story. I will say I didn't love it. Like the first one was the only one available at my library. If the second one was available at my library, I might move forward in it, but it's not, and I don't think I want to purchase it. Towards the end, it was just a little bit too much action in it that didn't feel like it flowed well. It wasn't super believable for me. There was a twist that I really liked. I don't know. It just didn't do it for me. I just didn't love it. So it was cute, like no regrets reading it, but it wasn't like a favorite. So, okay, now let's move to audiobooks. So while I was reading The Name of the Wind, which took a long time, I did do a bit of audiobook listening just in my day-to-day life. So I listened to, for book club, our book club pick for August was The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. And I really liked that. So that one is dual timeline. It takes place in, I think that might be London as well. I think it took place in London. So we have like our ancient 1700s character, and she is an apothecary, and she dispenses poisons to women, only women, to help kill the men that have wronged them in their life. Then we have our main character in present time, and she just found out that her husband had cheated on her, so she kind of goes to this second honeymoon in London all by herself to kind of figure out what she wants to do next, and she finds a bottle in the river from this apothecary from hundreds of years ago, and she starts trying to piece together who this woman was and what happened. And I will say it was pretty well done. It was kept me interested, kept me reading. I will say I liked the past character better than the current character. The current character was a little bit annoying at times, but I loved the way the stories wove together, and I felt like that end was done really well. It wasn't what I expected. Yeah, it was good. I recommend that one as well. Liked that. Okay, then I listened to two memoirs, both really sad, but both really well written, really well done. So I listened to The Sound of Gravel by Ruth Wariner, and that is about a girl who grows up living in like rural Mexico, in a polygamist cult. And it's a story of her growing up, modern day, like I think she's like my age now, so just like 20-30 years ago, with her polygamist father who has a bunch of different wives, and he can't afford to support any of the wives and any of the children, so they're living in like extreme poverty, like just surviving on like rice, no electricity, just really like dire situations, and just severe neglect, health. They don't have like good health care, so a couple of the children in her family, I don't remember, it's been a while, so I don't remember all the details, but just a lot of bad things. And she is actually, this is her stepfather that most of the story is about, because her actual father dies before she was born, and she's like, I don't know, like one of like 30 kids from that father, I want to say. I don't know, a lot of kids, like lots and lots of wives, lots and lots of kids. I can't remember all the numbers, but like staggering numbers. And she ends up being really abused by this stepfather, and her mother, her mother just doesn't stand up for her the way a mother should when she's abused. And it is just a story about suffering and enduring and getting yourself out of situations that are hard to get out of, and how to move past those situations. So it was a tough read. It was hard to read, but it was so, so good. And I love, after I read memoirs, kind of finding out like what they say now and looking up pictures from their childhood and stories and stuff. So I've looked up a little bit about Ruth Wariner in present time. And yeah, it's just amazing how she has just made a good life for herself after this traumatic, crazy upbringing. So yeah, it wasn't all like depressing. There was some good parts of her childhood that she touches on, and like staying with her grandparents and moving around, and there was some good stuff too, but it was a tough read. Another book I read was Between Two Kingdoms by Suleika Jaouad. Loved that as well. Suleika was just out of college when she began having these crazy symptoms like itching and pain and fatigue, and she ended up being diagnosed with a severe form of leukemia. Basically took away all her normalcy of young adult life, and she ended up having a bone transplant, and was just very, very sick for a very long time. And it's her story of going through the years of her initial illness and her chemo and her bone marrow transplant and more chemo and that suffering, and how that affected her relationships and her life and her career. And then it's about how after she is in recovery, after she's well, as if you're ever really like well from cancer, but she's well, she doesn't know what to do and doesn't know how to move forward in the normal world anymore. So she goes on this journey around the United States to visit people who wrote to her and influenced her life while she was sick. So yeah, it was so good. It was so impactful. Definitely makes you take a look at your own life and think, oh, like, are things really that bad for me? Like, no, they're not. Yeah, and it's sad because I finished reading, loved it, loved where it went, and then I found her, looked up what is she doing now, and she actually is relapsed and just had another bone marrow transplant, so is struggling again. So I'm super bummed about that, and I'm hoping that she recovers again this time, because she is just a delightful, amazing human being. So yes, definitely read that one. I would say out of all these books, if you're going to read one, read that one. It was really a good story. Okay, so the last book I read was a Kindle book because it was NetGalley. Those are the only books I read on Kindle are books that I get from NetGalley. What Lies in the Woods by Kate Alice Marshall. And this was pretty good. This was like a random thriller that I just picked off the list, and I was like, that one sounds kind of good, and I got approved. You never know what you're gonna get with NetGalley. It could be very good or very bad. So I really liked this one. This was about a girl. I think her name was Naomi. I can't remember. All my characters are blurring together. We'll call her Naomi. So Naomi and her two friends, when they were 10, 11 years old, were playing in the woods, and Naomi got attacked and basically left for dead in the forest. And her friends were able to identify the murderer, and he was like this serial killer who had been kind of around in that area around that time. And then Naomi helps them at trial put him in prison. So now it's like flash forward 25-ish years, and the man that was in prison passes away, so the girls get together to meet, and they start talking about these secrets that they held from the police and the media and everyone when this all went down, and things they weren't exactly honest about what happened. So that's kind of where it starts, and I cannot say much more than that because it's a thriller and it would give things away very easily, but I liked it. It was well done. It was just enough action to keep you on the edge of your seat, but you didn't feel like the whole time it was like, wait, what? The end twist, I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe that happened. And yeah, it wasn't too graphic. I feel like thrillers sometimes feel like they have to be like super graphic and smutty to like get attention, and I didn't feel like it was like that. I mean, there was some questionable content, but none of it was like, oh, I don't want to read that, disgusting, you know what I mean? So yeah, that one is going to be out mid-January, I believe, of 2023. So we have a couple months left to go, but that's definitely one I solid 4-star. I definitely recommend. Yeah, really liked it. It made me want to check out more of her work too, because she's written quite a few thrillers. So I will be doing that at some point in time. Okay, so that wraps up the past couple months. I honestly don't even remember what the last video I posted was. So that's it. My plan from here, let's talk about what I'm currently reading. Okay, so I'm currently reading Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. I really am liking this. So this is about, it takes place in a retirement community. You have 4 retired friends that are interested in murder and are interested in unsolved crimes. So they meet every Thursday to kind of talk about unsolved cases and see if they can solve them and see what kind of information they can glean from these cases. And then it turns out that a murder happens to someone that works on the like in the retirement community. So they jump right in and get themselves involved with the cops and like start trying to help solve the crime. And it is laugh out loud funny, first of all. I'm about halfway through, like halfway. It's so funny. Like each person just has like this unique character. And you just can picture them like just acting like they're in control of the situation. And the police kind of like don't know what to do with them. They're just kind of like, all right, well, I guess they're helping with the murder investigation. Like, it's so funny. It's so well done. I'm really enjoying it. This was actually my book club pick for my real life book club. And so it's my job to pick a book, and I was like, I think this one would be a good book club book, because I cannot wait to talk to my ladies about it. And I have to think up questions too, so there's a little bit of pressure on me. I have to think of like good, intelligent questions to ask at our conversation as well. So that is something I'm working on as well. I have like my little tabs for stuff I want to come back and revisit after I'm done reading to do some questions. So yeah, that's all for now. I think my next video is going to be a TBR. I'm going to kind of get myself organized after this and do a TBR for October. I have a couple buddy reads planned, and yeah, other than that, I'm just going to pick some books that I want to read to ease into fall. So I hope you guys are doing so well wherever you are. I hope you, oh, it's perfect time to end because a kid's calling me. Take some time today to read some good books. And if you are having a bad hair day, just wear a bandana. Bye.